In the shadows of history, before the foundations of modern religion, there exists a tale so disturbing, so controversial, that it was almost erased from the sacred texts themselves. The story of the fallen angels, according to the Book of Enoch, presents a chilling vision of divine rebellion and cosmic punishment, one that might make you question the very nature of forgiveness and divine justice. Were they forgiven? Or were they condemned forever, doomed to linger in the darkness, their fate sealed by their defiance? The angels, once glorified beings of light, were not always bound to the heavenly throne. They were created by God to observe, to watch, and to protect the fragile world below. But as the days passed, something changed. A dark hunger began to stir in their hearts. They were not content with their roles. They longed for more. They wanted to experience the very thing they were forbidden from, the pleasures of humanity. And so, their rebellion began. In the Book of Enoch, we learn that one angel, Semyaza, the leader of the rebellious ones, dared to defy God's command. But he was not alone. A group of 200 angels, the Watchers, joined him in his treachery. Together, they descended from the heavens to earth, leaving behind the purity of the celestial realm. Their descent marked the beginning of a catastrophic chain of events, but what exactly did they do? What was their crime? They were not simply content with observing the human world from afar. No, the Watchers crossed a line that no angel had ever dared to. They took human wives. The once pure beings of light were now mingling with the daughters of man, creating offspring, the Nephilim, giant beings of immense strength and power. But it didn't stop there. These angels didn't just take human wives, they taught humanity forbidden knowledge. They taught them the secrets of heaven, the art of war, the making of weapons, the knowledge of astrology, and even the dark secrets of the earth itself. It was this knowledge that sealed their doom. For once humans learned the forbidden arts, they became violent. The world descended into chaos, bloodshed, and suffering. The earth itself cried out in pain, and the angels, once beloved and pure, now stood accused of bringing destruction to the world they were meant to protect. And God? What was his response? The Book of Enoch paints a terrifying picture. God, in his anger, did not forgive them. No, the punishment would be swift and unforgiving. The angels who had dared to rebel were bound and cast into the deepest, darkest pit of the earth. Their punishment would last for eternity. They would be imprisoned in chains, unable to escape the fate they had earned with their defiance. But this story, this tale of divine vengeance, raises an unsettling question: could they have been forgiven? Could God have shown mercy to these fallen beings, these once pristine angels who had lost everything? Or was their sin too great to be undone? As we delve deeper into the Book of Enoch, we must confront the harsh truth that, according to this ancient text, forgiveness was never an option for the fallen angels. Their actions were irreversible. Their rebellion had consequences far beyond anything they could have imagined. The Watchers were not just punished for their actions, they were condemned for their defiance of God's divine order. In the eyes of the Creator, there was no redemption for them. No way back to grace, but why? Why were they condemned so harshly? Was it because they had disrupted the natural order? Or was there something more to their story, something that we, as humans, can learn from? Before we jump to conclusions, let's take a closer look at the motivations of the Watchers. They were not mindless agents of chaos. They were beings of intelligence, beings who saw the suffering of humanity, beings who perhaps wanted to help. Perhaps they thought that by sharing their knowledge, they could empower humanity, elevate them to a higher state of being. But in doing so, they broke a cardinal rule. They crossed a line that God had drawn. Humans were not to be taught such knowledge. Humanity had to learn on its own, through its own struggles, through its own growth. What's worse, these angels didn't just bring knowledge, they brought corruption. They exposed humanity to things they were not ready for. They opened doors that could never be closed again. The knowledge of war, of destruction, of manipulation, these are the things the Watchers imparted to mankind. And with this knowledge came the rise of evil. The world became a darker, more dangerous place. And in the eyes of God, there could be no forgiveness for those who caused such irreversible harm, but, as with all great myths, there's more to the story than just punishment. The Book of Enoch doesn't just tell us about the fall of the angels. It also tells us about the future. It speaks of a time when these fallen angels will be judged. A time when their actions will be weighed, and the consequences of their rebellion will be made clear. A time when they will stand before God and face the judgment of their actions. But will they be forgiven then? Will there be any mercy? Or will their fate be sealed forever, leaving them to dwell in eternal darkness? The Book of Enoch tells us that the punishment of the fallen angels is not just a matter of divine vengeance, it's also a warning. A warning to all who would dare to defy the natural order, to all who would dare to challenge the Creator's will. These angels, once filled with divine light, now find themselves trapped in a pit of darkness, their cries for mercy echoing through the abyss, unheard and unanswered. But while their fate seems sealed, the story doesn't end there. The Book of Enoch offers a glimpse into what is to come, a final judgment that will take place at the end of time. The fallen angels, those who once stood as the guardians of the earth, will stand before God once again. This is the moment when they will face the consequences of their actions. The question remains, will they be forgiven? Will the Creator show them mercy, or will their rebellion be met with eternal damnation? The truth is, the Book of Enoch leaves us with a chilling ambiguity. It doesn't provide a definitive answer to the question of forgiveness. Instead, it leaves us to ponder the nature of sin, of rebellion, and of divine justice. Are the fallen angels beyond redemption? Or is there hope for even the most corrupted beings, no matter how far they have fallen? Some scholars believe that the Book of Enoch presents a theological lesson. It serves as a warning to humanity about the dangers of knowledge and power. The angels, in their quest to elevate humanity, ended up corrupting them. They gave mankind the power to destroy, to wage war, to bring suffering. They didn't intend to harm, at least, not in the way we might think, but the consequences were disastrous. And this, the Book of Enoch suggests, is why their rebellion was unforgivable. They broke a cosmic law that no being, no matter how powerful, could escape. Yet, there's a part of us that wonders, what if the angels were misunderstood? What if their actions, though rebellious, were born out of compassion for humanity? What if they didn't seek to destroy, but to save? What if, in their attempt to elevate humanity, they merely overstepped their bounds? Could there have been room for forgiveness if they had repented, if they had sought redemption? The Book of Enoch tells us nothing of their repentance. It speaks only of their downfall, of their punishment. But we must ask ourselves, is God's mercy so limited that no being, no matter how fallen, can ever return to grace? Is there no second chance for those who have crossed the line? Perhaps the answer lies in the nature of the angels' rebellion. Their fall wasn't just a matter of breaking rules. It was an act of hubris, of thinking they knew better than the Creator. It was an act of defiance, an attempt to alter the divine plan. And in doing so, they caused suffering, not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. Their fall was not just about the knowledge they gave, it was about the consequences of that knowledge. They sought to change the world, but in doing so, they brought chaos. And so, we are left to wonder, was their fate truly sealed because of their rebellion, or was it because of the consequences their actions had on the world? The Book of Enoch suggests that it was the latter. The angels, in their pursuit of knowledge, unleashed forces they could not control. They gave humanity power, but it was power that could only lead to destruction. Their sin wasn't just their rebellion, it was the way that rebellion affected the world around them. It wasn't just about breaking a divine command, it was about breaking the very fabric of creation itself. But still, the question lingers, could they have been forgiven? Could God have shown mercy to those who had caused so much destruction? The Book of Enoch seems to say no. But then again, the story of the fallen angels is not just a tale of damnation. It is also a story of warning. It is a story of what happens when we go too far, when we seek power beyond our understanding, when we attempt to change the natural order. The fallen angels are a cautionary tale, one that asks us to consider the consequences of our own actions. In the end, the fate of the fallen angels is a mystery. The Book of Enoch offers no final resolution, no ultimate judgment. It leaves us to wrestle with the nature of sin, rebellion, and divine justice. It asks us to confront the uncomfortable truth that some actions, some rebellions, may be so severe that no forgiveness is possible. And yet, it also invites us to wonder, if the angels were truly beyond redemption, what does that say about the nature of mercy and grace? Is there no limit to God's forgiveness, or are there lines that cannot be crossed, even by those who were once pure? We may never know the full answer to this question. But the story of the fallen angels serves as a powerful reminder: there are consequences to defying the divine order. There are consequences to tampering with the forces of creation. And, sometimes, those consequences are too great to be undone, and so, the fallen angels remain, locked in their chains, their fate sealed for all eternity. But their story is not forgotten. It continues to echo through the ages, a warning to us all. A warning about the dangers of knowledge, of power, and of the rebellion that can arise when we think we know better than the Creator. What do you think? Were the fallen angels beyond redemption? Did God forgive them? Or were they simply lost forever? The answer may be more complicated than we can ever truly understand, but one thing is certain: the story of the fallen angels will continue to haunt us. And it will continue to raise questions about sin, justice, and the limits of divine mercy.